So PJ Fleck is a bozo. And I don't use that word lightly, but I'm trying to parse the vocabulary that we're supposed to use when I get a headline, as we often get these days, for what a culture is like underneath a certain football coach.
Did you do that ironically? He's a bozo? Like, do you get the show as deep as I think you do? Because we used to have a caller, Arash, and okay, you are doing a thing?
I just want to point out that my glasses are on because I slept in my contacts, not because I wigged and baked.
I thought they were on because you went to Harvard.
Also that.
It could be both, yeah.
Hartford.
Day one caller, Arash, used to call PJ. He would call in just to say
he was a prophet, dude.
PJ Fleck is a bozo is what he would say and then hang up. So I just wanted to know if you were doing a thing.
I was doing a bit of a thing, but also I'm trying to figure out what the vocabulary word is, executive producer Chris Cody, for when you get a headline that says toxic culture. But there are degrees of toxic, right? And so is this a Northwestern scandal? Is this an Iowa scandal? Is this a Penn State scandal? What kind of scandal are we dealing with? And so thank God Lucy Rodin is here to explain, our PJ Fleck correspondent, what the hell has been going on under noted bozo PJ Fleck at Minnesota.
I feel like every year we get a sort of PJ Fleck hit piece where it's like, that guy is crazy and toxic and a cult leader. Yeah, he always has been. Like, I read that whole thing and was like, okay, yeah, that's PJ Fleck.
Death, taxes, and that.
Exactly. Like, he's such a weird dude. Like, this definitely came on the heels of Northwestern, where you saw, these student journalists come together and, bring to light what was happening under Pat Fitzgerald. So it was just kind of like riding on the coattails of that. I don't think it was nearly as severe. There were definitely things in here that weren't okay. Where, like, there's the Fleck Bank, which is like Schrute bucks I'm picking up on, where you could, like, earn money or whatever currency in the Fleck Bank and then use it to get out of like a failed drug test.
So just to be clear, the type of college football coach we're dealing with is the sort of guy who brands a currency that he names after himself that he uses to enforce seemingly serious things, or at least things that are serious to him.
That is so PJ Fleck. He brands everything. If you go to Minnesota Stadium and you like walk underneath, there are oars everywhere because of his row the boat, like his little saying. He loves the word elite. Like, he is a cult leader. When I read that term, I was like, yes. And I think the perfect example of it is the story of where he would walk into a room with his players and require them to give him a standing ovation. Oh my God.
This is moving too fast.
Yeah, we got to slow this down. We got to row the boat less fast.
I need more info on these bucks. Before we get to the standing ovation, what are these called, the Fleck bucks?
It was the Fleck Bank.
The Fleck Bank. Do you get Fleck bucks that you put in the Fleck Bank?
Maybe Fleckles?
They never specified what the currency was, but it was in the Fleck Bank. So I imagine
What if it's just dollars?
Yeah, maybe it's
Fleck
just actual
coin?
money. Maybe you just pay them.
Do they offer?
There it is. We were spitballing, and you won.
That's a good one.
CDs, bonds, or is it just a savings account?
Can I put my Fleck bucks into mutual funds is the question we're asking here today on this show. But hold on.
What's the exchange rate? I'm just curious. I want to know about this bank.
How stable are Fleck bucks, Fleck coin?
Well, he's been there for a couple years, so I think they're pretty stable if you're in the football program, where I'm sure they carry over. But it seems like the only currency they had in this article was to get out of drug tests.
So this is the key part about this exchange rate.
Yeah.
Is that you do good things and you get out of bad things.
Yes.
Which is a pretty key component to, I think, a more crypto vibe. Like, there's a dark money aspect to this. It's not like when you would make a fake coupon book for your parents when you're giving them a birthday gift, and it's like one free hug. We're talking about something that's a little more deliberate in terms of what you get out of this if you're a college football player in trouble.
Yeah, PJ Fleck is absolutely a crypto guy. You can just take one look at him and be like, yep, 100%. I think what's so, interesting about this article was that, okay, if you do good, you get a Fleck buck. If you do bad, you have to go through extra exercise as a punishment. And that's something that the entire Minnesota athletics program got in trouble for a few years ago, of using extra workouts and, difficult workouts as a punishment when you mess up.
I think I gave my wife massage coupons 5 years ago. I don't think I've ever done it. I don't think she's ever cashed them in. They've expired at this point. I mean, geez.
The fine print has them expiring.
Cody Bank.
Kank.
One of my favorite things was that all the acronyms that he makes players memorize, which gave me Dabo Sweeney vibes. So I mean, it's not unique to PJ Fleck, but one of them was fist. Family invested same time. Quote, keep it tight. What does that mean? There was another one that was think. Truthful, helpful, inspirational, necessary, kind. And players had to memorize these in a binder that he would give them, apparently.
Oh, God. I like that it does feel like the floodgates have opened a
We
bit.
would have let that slide.
Yeah, Hartford.
I
It
got
does.
one.
Oh, what do you got?
Sad, stupid, and dumb. That's what that is.
I can't tell if Roy just burned me or
No,
if
not
that's an
you. No,
actual
no,
thing.
not you. I'm talking about the PJ Fleck acronym thing.
That was a good one, Roy.
It really was. Whether or not it was meant to be.
That was the most Roy
It hit to the
acronym
core
of
of
all
me.
time. Sad, stupid, and dumb. Put that on a shirt.
It does feel like the floodgates have opened a bit as we get these stories and we're trying to figure out, as always, what are we supposed to do with this? And Lucy is indicating that PJ Fleck has been there for quite a long time. It does not feel like these rise to the level of ousting PJ Fleck. We're fairly certain that what we're going to do today is laugh, but it's not going to result in action because this is just what a college football coach does.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. So in reading the story from Front Office Sports yesterday, I also read a story in CBS that said that there was a memorandum that they received in 2018 in which a former employee warned the Minnesota Board of Regents of a toxic culture within the program. They said that student athletes' health and welfare were at risk. They said that Minnesota medical staffers were illegally prescribing Toradol, which is something that we know is a very dangerous substance to use. And then there was another investigation by an independent firm into the culture of the football team. There was also a case in which players were suspended in 2017 ahead of a bowl game following the 2016 season in retaliation to a sexual assault investigation. So there's definitely a lot of things going on around this program that need to be looked at and investigated. Whether or not it's just silly shit like a binder full of acronyms or players being punished via workouts and physical, performance for physical, whatever, physical punishments
For not earning Fleck bucks.
Exactly. Those are definitely weird things. And if you want to make fun of PJ Fleck, yeah, you probably can make fun of 100 other college football coaches for doing that, which we should. We should make fun of all of them because
Yes,
they're very
and I
silly
plan
people.
to.
But it does seem like there are legitimate things and cause for concern, just like there probably are in also a lot of other college football locker rooms. And I think the fact that this Pat Fitzgerald investigation happened and he was fired, whether or not you think okay, this Front Office Sports story is a little silly, there's some ridiculous claims in it. It's important and I think good that players are willing to speak up and we can decide and universities can decide and fans can decide what we're cool with accepting in college football culture.
Well, that's the moment we're in, is that we're doing this exercise where we have to figure out, are we going to increase our sensitivity to things that would be abjectly absurd to do in a normal workplace? And so with PJ Fleck, what I find myself wondering is, okay, we're at this moment where the floodgates are opening, and it's just one of those. A locker room is one of those places where there are a zillion sources. It's easy to. I'm not saying it's easy to break these stories. It's taken quite a bit to get to the point of a Front Office Sports headline, which we're going to talk about today for quite a bit because there's a lot of funny and a lot of potentially disturbing, as Jess was alluding to. But it's also the thing of there are so many former players, and all of them went through this. That's the point. They all had to be indoctrinated into the culture of PJ Fleck. And it feels like the numbness that college football has to even the stupid shit that I cannot believe is real, these acronyms, this bank, it just feels like college football itself is not there with PJ Fleck has to go.
He's not leaving. Yeah, no, there's no way he doesn't keep his job after this because like I mentioned earlier, stuff like this comes out about PJ Fleck all the time. He's a very notably weird, odd dude. My first word to describe him, or 2 words, would be cult leader. And that's what they called him.
Your
in there.
numbness, by the way, to Jess's point, our collective numbness to yeah, he's a cult leader. is a little disturbing.
I think all college football coaches are. I also feel like all college football fans are also like willing
Cultists?
participants in the cult.
Yep.
I should clarify, the sexual assault thing was at Minnesota was something that happened. That was why PJ Fleck was brought in. That didn't happen while he was coaching there. But I'm pointing that out to point out the fact that these are things that have happened within the program in the past decade. He's been there since 2017. And so calling into question his punishment, his letting players, play despite drug tests and all of these things, are questioning if he's the right person to bring into a program that is going through this like humongous humiliation and scandal, and whether or not like anything has changed in Minnesota since he was brought in.
So what I did not appreciate until just now, I did not know this context, is that PJ Fleck, the Fleck Bank, was founded in response to a scandal that was disturbing enough to get the previous regime ousted. And if that's part of the story, this system in which I'm just trying to put together the exchange rate. So if you did community service, if you visited patients at the University of Minnesota Medical Center with PJ Fleck, you got Fleck bucks. You got Fleck coin.
You got drugs.
And in exchange, you got to redeem that for drugs.
Awesome.
There's a little Stugotz in PJ Fleck. I was going to point that out. But you were pointing out also, Lucy, that PJ Fleck as a character is somebody that you encountered before.
Yeah, so the story I kind of mentioned earlier of the standing ovation where he will walk into a room and force everyone to, stand up and cheer for him, and if it's not good enough, he will walk out and come back in. I've known about that for years. That is not a very well-kept secret. That's a very, PJ Fleck moment. He has this, wild persona with him where, before the fourth quarter of their games, he will sprint from one end of the field to the next. He is an odd dude. That's his whole, shtick.
I like the idea that there's a little Dabo Sweeney in PJ Fleck. There's a little Stugotz in PJ Fleck. There's a little Amin El Hassan in PJ Fleck, now that I'm thinking about it.
My favorite Dabo Sweeney acronym was when COVID happened, and he said he created the acronym TIGERS. This is going to end real soon.
Stupid and dumb. Sad.